Yeah, it's CC, CEO. Wanna change your life? Come see me. Yeah, it's CC, CEO. Wanna change your life? Come see me, yo. I'ma teach you how to build up wealth for your family, not just for yourself. I'm a bestseller, a house flipper, a businesswoman, a go-getter, a big investor, a gold builder that can teach you to get richer like millions, baby. You really about to fill your savings. You about to have multiple streams to pass your children, baby. Let me teach you to get your credit on track in the long run. You'll make it all back at Catalyst and watch it all psychology black on firm, but we ain't all black.
Hey, what's happening, y'all? This is your girl, Constance Carter. It's Monday, and I'm so excited. I'm so excited to be with you tonight. And gosh, you guys have been waiting. I'm seeing you guys. Thank you for all the YouTube viewers that are on here waiting to listen and talk and engage tonight. Thank you guys for tuning in, for typing in, for chiming in. You know how we do it every night, every single night, 6 p.m. Pacific and 9 p.m. Eastern. It's always a dialogue and not a monologue. So we want you to talk back to us and talk black to us. This is your girl, Constance Carter, on Fly Nubian Queen, the station for melanated people just like you and you and you. So as you come in and you get situated tonight, I want you to put in the chat box, where are you from? Where are you from? Where are you hailing from? Because I know we have people that watch from all over the world. So where are you from? Where are you at right now in the world today? Are you in North Carolina? Are you in Chicago? I'm in California. I'm in Stockton, California. In fact, where one of the latest atrocities happened, and it actually happened a few months ago. But where are you guys at? So as you're coming in, I want you to tell us where you are. And, talk. We want, again, this is a dialogue and not a monologue. So we want you to ask questions. Today, we have a very interesting topic. But before we go into that, I want to make sure that you are subscribing to Fly Nubian Queen on YouTube and on Facebook. And I want to make sure that you're also subscribing to Nobody Works Harder Than Constance Carter on Facebook and YouTube. And then go over to Instagram and follow me on I Am Constance Carter on Instagram. So I see you guys. I see James from Indiana. I see Craig from Phoenix, Arizona. Who's that? Denise from Montebello, California. What's happening? Jaron from Kansas City, Missouri. They don't say Kansas City. They say Kansas City. Who else is out there? Let's see. Who else? Revolutionist, 1945 from Tennessee. Who else we got out there? We got so many people. Amanda from Cedar Rapids. Is that Iowa? Timothy from Boston, Massachusetts. Yes. B1 in the house. Yes. Phyllis from Lafayette, Louisiana. Thank you guys. We got anybody from Africa chiming in today? We got anybody from England chiming in today? Go ahead and put it in the chat box because we want to know where you are from. And we want you to engage with us. So tonight I have a really special guest. I actually have the father of Devin Carter that is going to be joining us today. And if you've seen the previews that we posted today, there was a 17-year-old kid that was brutally beaten by the police. And it was really, really painful to watch. And it happened right here in the city that I live in Stockton, California. I watched the video, and this baby was begging and pleading. When I watched the video, I had tears in my eyes, hearing this boy crying, telling the police that he wasn't resisting. I thought about all the young men that have been beaten since the inception of this country without cause, without cameras, without accountability. I was thinking about all those people. I was thinking about my 3 sons, my 12, my 14, and my 16-year-old son. My 16-year-old is going to get his license in 2 weeks. And I was just shopping for cars for him. And as I'm shopping for cars with him, I'm looking at the ones that have the least police magnet on it, because we're so afraid. We're so terrified of our children coming into contact with the police. And I'm looking for that. And I think about all the people who've come in contact with the police and weren't as lucky as this young man. And by no means am I saying he's lucky. I'm saying he's lucky because there were cameras, because there's so many people who did not have cameras. He's 17 years old. And when I was talking to my 16-year-old about this today, he said something that was so poignant. He said, Mom, police think that they're the judge and the jury. Like, they will beat you without any provocation. And then they'll do all the prosecution themselves. They act like they're above the law. They'll punish you before they know if you've done anything wrong. And I know that that's what happened in this case. I think about the conversations that I had with all my boys since they could talk, since they were in elementary school. You know, we as Black parents having to have the talk with our kids. Oh, I tell my kids, you know, listen, you are not the same as some of your peers. You can't act like some of your peers, some of the friends that you hang out with. You can't be those people. You don't have the same liberty, even though you should, you don't. And at the end of the day, all I want for you to do is come home at night. And we'll fight at a later time. We don't need you fighting, but I just want you to make it home. And so this young man, the 17-year-old kid, which was brutally beaten, and if you could show the pictures of him right now, this young man that was brutally beaten, 17 years old, and he didn't come home that night. They arrested him, and he was going over to his dad's house. They stomped him in his face. They stomped him on his back. I mean, it was crazy. This kid is a good kid. Now, his dad is a teacher. His dad taught at the Christian school that my kids went to. His dad's a teacher. His mom was the principal. He, you know, and I don't care even if he was a bad kid. I don't care if he was breaking the law, which he wasn't. There was no reason for him to be treated like this. So I want to bring on his dad, and I want to just kind of have a conversation with him about how things are going. How you doing, Mr. Carter?
You know, I've had better days. You know, I just want to say I appreciate you having me on.
I'm so glad that you're here. There are thousands of folks that are on that care about your story, that want to hear your story, and that are pissed off because we're tired. We're sick and tired of what's going on in our community. Would you have ever imagined something like this happening to your son?
Never. It's something that I never would have thought would have happened. It wouldn't have hit home. You hear stories about it all the time, but never ever would I have thought something like this would have happened to one of my kids.
So walk us through December 30th, because this happened on December 30th, right?
Yes, December 30th. The 31st, actually New Year's Eve.
Oh, wow.
On New Year's Eve. Yeah.
So walk us through that day. What happened?
So my son he had just purchased this car on his way from his mom's house. His girlfriend was following behind him. You know, they were on their way home. He called me and said, "Dad, I'm on my way home. I'll be there shortly." And this was about around 7:45 that night. For some reason, I know it was by the grace of God, the way everything transpired. I fell asleep around 7:50, which I never fall asleep that early. I get woken up to a phone call from his mom saying, "I need you to go to 8 Mile and Davis Road," which is about a little bit more than a mile away from my house. It's a straight shot. I get dressed. I'm all panicking, like, you know, what's going on? What's happening? She said, "Devin is being arrested. They're talking about he killed 2 people in a car accident. He's going to be going to jail." So I get dressed. I'm heading down Davis Road. There's a police car that's blocking me from getting to where my son was. I said, "Excuse me, sir. I need to get through. My son just got it. You know, my son is being arrested. I need to find out what's going on." He was like, "I don't believe that's your son." And he's on the telephone at this time, the police officer. And I said, "I'm sorry. No, my son caused an accident. His mom told me that he's being arrested. I need to get through." "No, I don't believe that's your son." He told me that twice. I put my truck in park. And I said, "I'm not sure if you're a parent, but as a concerned parent, I just need to know if my son is okay." He hangs the phone up and he was like, "You know, the only thing I can tell you is that your son is okay." And so I said, "Is there any way I can get through?" He said, "No." So I stopped talking to him. I turned all the way around and I went the opposite direction. It took me about 7 minutes to get to where he was, where it could have taken me less than 30 seconds to get where he was.
Wow.
So by the time I pull up, 2 officers were blocking traffic, and I couldn't get through. His mom so happened to pull up at the same time. And so they're telling us that, you know, your son led us on a high-speed chase. He caused an accident right down the street, and we ended up arresting him, and we're taking him to jail. His mother stated, "How can you take a 17-year-old to jail? He's a minor." So the whole process was his girlfriend is white. The police were behind her. They turned their lights on, and she pulled over. They went around her. I'm assuming that they saw that she was white. Oh, you know, she's no harm, and pursued after my son.
Wow.
So the only thing the officers told us when we were on scene, your son was complaining about his head hurting. So we asked him if he wanted to go to the hospital. He said, your son asked if can I call my mom or my dad to find out if I can go. The officer said, nope, you can answer that for yourself. So my son ended up going to the hospital. At this point, me and his mom was angry at our son, not knowing that he was brutally beating. We both said New Year's Eve, he might not be able to see a judge, in the morning. So he might stay there over the weekend, which we both agreed to. He needed to learn his lesson. Here we are listening to what the police are telling us, not knowing that they brutally beat our son.
So they straight up lied.
They lied.
Okay.
But so his mom tried calling around, finding out where our son was, because they didn't give us much information. She finally called St. Joseph's Hospital and said, or the county hospital, I'm looking for my son. He's a minor. He's 17 years old. We're trying to find out if he's in the hospital. Is he okay? Yes, your son is here. One of the nurses talked to her. So she ended up getting one of the police officers. I don't know his first name, but it's something Ochoa. He was one of the sergeant or one of the supervisors that night. Devin's mom gets on the phone with him and said, I don't want anyone questioning my son without his parent or without his attorney.
Right.
And so, he goes back, he hangs up. We don't want to ask him any questions anyways. We don't want to talk to your son. Very rude with her. So at 3:30 the next morning, my son calls us and, I'm couldn't sleep. I was just tossing and turning, couldn't sleep, just worried about, what my son did. They claim he was going to jail for a double homicide and all this stuff.
So this is what they tell you. They tell you he's going to jail.
Yep. They told his mom while she was on the phone with him, he's going to prison for a double homicide, evading arrest, and resisting arrest. And, in my mind, I've talked to my kids about, respecting the police, respecting law enforcement. So my son gets us on the phone and he said, Mom, Dad, they beat me. At that moment, the whole game changed. We immediately jumped on the phone, started calling some of our contacts. And we got a hold of John Burse's office. And at 10:30 that morning, I got a phone call from Juvenile Hall saying, you can come and pick your son up. I immediately went and picked up, I told his mother, we picked up our other kids. We went down to Juvenile Hall and ended up picking up our son. Try not to get emotional about this. When I saw the pictures when I saw my son's face, I almost lost it. I almost lost it. The damage that they did to our son, broke his nose, gave him 2 black eyes, a boot print on his face, one on his neck, and one on the middle of his back.
A boot print. This is a boot print right here.
Yeah. And we're just left with questions like, how did this happen? Like, what's going on? So our son told us when he was in a hospital, laying in a bed, a little discomfort, one of the doctors came in and said, oh, honey, what happened to you? Officer Michael Stiles answered for my son, told the doctor, oh, he got into a fight.
No, he did not.
Yes, he did. Told the doctor he got into a fight. Then she saw how he was in discomfort. She was like, oh, would you like to lay back? The officer, Michael Stiles, also answered, no, he's fine.
Really?
Yes. So my son could not get a word in. So when she had asked him again, she was like, what happened to you? Did the police do this to you? With the officer standing right by him, he couldn't say nothing. He just kind of looked up and, wanted to nod his head. But, he's been bullied, being intimidated by this police officer that just brutally beat him. He's not going to say anything else because he's afraid it might happen again.
So where were you guys at this time?
We were at home. We were at home. So they took him to the hospital around, I want to say about 8:50. They transported him to the hospital. So right before I got pulled up on scene, the ambulance had just took him away.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So what happens next?
So we ended up getting in touch with John Burse and
Who was
his office.
Rodney King's attorney, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
One of the best civil attorneys that you can get in Northern California.
Right.
You never know the type of connections that you have until you have to call up on them.
Right.
Immediately we get on the phone with John after we pick our son up, and John started giving us some information. Hey, this is what we're going to do. And he wanted to hear Devin's story. So we ended up meeting with John, told him the whole story, and we went on from there. Within, I want to say 35 days, I believe, of an incident, the police are supposed to release the body cam footage.
Right.
They said, oh, we'll be giving it to you guys. They postponed that. They changed the date on us 3 different times. Did not release it until 90 something days later.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mr. Carter, this happened December 31st, New Year's Eve, and they just released the body cam video when?
Last Tuesday,
Tuesday.
Yes.
And what was their reasoning for taking so long to do it?
They just kept telling John, oh, we're investigating, we're trying to, dot our I's, cross our T's, make sure everything, is taken care of.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what? Yeah. So what? During that time, during that 90-day period, what had been going on? What were you guys doing?
Pretty much, me and his mother had, we kept silent on social media. We didn't want to really be out there. We just tried to let nature take its course. We did have a press conference with the media just to tell them, hey, this is what's going on. We want some answers. We need some answers. We have some very powerful people that's helping us. Faith in the Valley. We have quite a few people that has been helping us throughout this situation.
So I want to bring some context and show everybody, if you don't mind, the body cam video. Okay.
Okay. Go for it.
All right. Let's go, Charles. Let's show the video.
Fucking move. Don't fucking move. Take your seatbelt off. Take your fucking seatbelt off. Okay. I'm not resisting. Ow. Get off. I'm not resisting.
Yeah, you are. Give him your hand. Give him your hand.
Give me your fucking hand.
Give him your hand.
Give me your fucking hand.
Give him your hand.
Fucking hand. Ow!
Give him your hand.
Here. I'm on it. I'm done.
I got one. Give him your other hand.
Ow! Give him your hand.
Give him your hand.
Your fucking hand, asshole. There. Ow!
Yank it.
Ow!
Yank it.
Ow! 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 Ow!
Double up. I'll throw him in a car.
Stand them up.
Huh?
They're on the tight.
Yank it.
Ow!
Stand up.
Okay, I'm done. I'm not resisting.
We have a driver in custody. 8 Mile Davis.
I'm not resisting.
Stop moving.
I'm not moving. Do as you're told. What don't you understand about that?
Negative. You gotta go through.
I'm not moving. Ow.
He's trying to fucking handcuff you.
Stop. There. He's got me, sir. Ow. Can you?
And 8 to 4 and 6, we pitted the vehicle here.
I'm not resisting. I'm not resisting.
Yeah, you are. Give him your hand. Give him your hand.
Give me your fucking hand.
Give him your hand.
Give me your fucking hand.
Fucking fucking in. Give him your hand. Fucking
Oh. Yeah.
Give him your hand.
Here.
I got one. Give him your other hand.
Ow.
Give him your hand. Give him your hand.
Your fucking hand, asshole. Here. Ow.
Cuff him. I got cuffs. Go on, Warren.
Ow.
Double lock it. I'll throw them in our car.
Stand them up so I can stop locking.
Huh?
They're hella tight.
Ow.
Stand up.
Okay, I'm done.
If you keep resisting,
I'm not
we're going to
resisting.
continue.
I swear I'm not. I'm not resisting. Sir.
Hold
I'm
on.
not resisting.
Stop moving.
I'm not moving. Do as you're told. What don't you understand about that? Yes, sir. Oh, it's yes, sir now, huh? Yes, sir. I said yes, sir. Fucking right.
If you keep fucking moving,
I'm
I
not
swear to
moving.
God.
Ow.
He's trying to fucking handcuff you.
He's
Stop.
There.
got me, sir.
So how does that make you feel watching that?
Angry, upset. Words really can't describe how I really feel. No parent should have to witness anything like that. No person should have to experience anything like that.
I think about, my sons. I think about all the people who have had to deal with this for so many years. I think about our men that continue to get brutalized by the police. And I'm so sorry that this happened to this baby, the 17-year-old baby. And that's what I keep saying. He was a baby. They said that he killed two people. What actually happened? So what did he say happened? Because they said that they pursued him and he was going 100 miles an hour on 8 Mile Road. What actually happened?
So what our son told us was he admitted to driving fast, but he didn't say he was going 100 miles an hour. Talking to people in law enforcement, they said that the police officers probably had to drive 100 miles an hour just to catch up to him. They don't have any records of him driving 100 miles an hour. They have no proof.
Yeah.
For them to sit there and say that he resisted arrest, where we truly see that he did not resist arrest, Are you really actually going to think that he was going 100 miles an hour?
Right.
So in a process of him driving, there's an overpass on 8 Mile Road. He ended up looking in his rearview mirror because he said the police officers were turning their lights on and turning them off. As an adult, if a police officer is behind me, they turn their lights on and turn them off, I wouldn't even know what to do.
Right.
So my son, you know, he's 17 years old, didn't know what to do. He looks in his rearview mirror and clips the center divider on 8 Mile Road. If he never lost control of his car, the side airbags are deployed, but he never lost control of his car. If someone was going 100 miles an hour and they hit anything, there's no way that he would still be able to drive that car.
Right.
So apparently one of the police officers that was trying to catch up to him ended up hitting a civilian, another car that was not involved in an incident. So I'm not sure exactly what happened with that because they didn't go into detail, but they tried to say that our son hit that car, which killed someone, which killed 2 people. So as my son turned on 8 Mile and Davis Road, one of the officers ended up doing a pit maneuver to his car. They brought it to a stop. And, you know, you see it clearly in the video. My son has his hands up. He had no chance to surrender.
His hands were visible, like on the steering wheel. Like you must have taught him to like have your hands on the steering wheel where they can see him.
I have 3 sons, and when this whole George Floyd thing happened, I took all 3 of them to breakfast and had a talk with them. And just explain to them, if you ever get pulled over and it's dark, you know, if it's a place where it's dark, which I live down a dark road, my son didn't feel safe to pull over.
Right.
Like,
and who actually feels safe to pull over from cops, not knowing what can happen? I mean, really.
Right. So I, you know, and it's sad that we have to have talks with our children about this type of stuff, about police officers that are supposed to be protecting and serving us, not serving up beatings. You know, they took the law into their own hands.
They're supposed to be serving us, but they serving up beatings.
Yes. And you know, my son thought they really tried to, he thought he was going to die. And that's exactly what they tried to do. In our opinion, they tried to kill him.
Can you imagine? I mean, as you as a father, having to hear your son saying, "I thought I was going to die."
It's just beyond me. And I have family members that have been in military, in the police department, in law enforcement. I also tried to be a police officer in the city of Stockton, but God had greater plans for me. He has a purpose for me and our son, for our whole family. But I understand now why I never became a police officer in the city of Stockton.
So what was your experience when you tried to become a police officer?
So give you a little background on me real quick. I have no criminal history, never been arrested, never been detained, never drank alcohol, never did drugs, never fought, nothing. And they say they want African Americans that grew up in Stockton. Well, I'm pretty much a poster child for that. After I ended up passing my written test, passed the physical agility test, I turned in my personal history statement, a questionnaire that you have to fill out, about 40-something pages long. I turned that in, and 2 weeks later, one of my background investigator told me that we're not going to pursue with you. We're not going to bring you on. I asked why. They couldn't give me no information.
Really?
Yeah. Couldn't give me an explanation as to why.
You have a degree. You have a degree, right? Because you're a teacher.
Yeah, yes? I'm just about, I'm almost finished with that.
Okay. You're a credentialed teacher. Yeah. And you have no criminal history.
Nothing.
Clean, and they wouldn't hire you. You know, it's funny because Chief Jones, I've met him before, and he talks about how they, you know, in Stockton, they're supposed to be the poster child for community policing. You know, they're supposed to be out there in the community. He's probably one of the few police chiefs that I've heard that's admitted that, you know, the police was formed out of being slave patrols, right? So he recognizes that, he understands the the dynamic. And he's supposedly had a lot of sensitivity training done with the police officers. But clearly, if these police officers can be so brazen with body cams on, I mean, how? And I know there were 4 police officers involved. 2 were fired, correct?
Yep.
So
and
the other 2
were
fired. Okay, so how do you feel about that? Why weren't they fired?
That's a great question. We had a press conference last Saturday, and I gave this illustration. If I walked into a convenience store or any place with 3 other people, and we committed a crime, they will not just come after 2 of us. They will come after all 4 of us. If me or Devin's mother put bruises or put hands on our kid, we would be arrested.
Both of you.
CPS would have been called out. We would have lost our jobs, and we would have been arrested. The police, they get to do whatever they want and get away with it. I called Chief Jones out. I said, I want the other 2 police officers to be fired and prosecuted as well. A sad thing about it is, and I'm gonna call him out, Vincent Magana, one of the 4 officers, one that's still on the force, is one of my former students from Lakeside. I taught him in 8th grade.
No way.
I taught him in 8th grade.
The irony.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is, you guys obviously, you're a prominent family, you're professional, you're educated, and all of those things. And it doesn't matter what your socioeconomic background is. At the end of the day, police don't care, because at the end of the day, you still looked all the same. But it's crazy that they didn't know, or they didn't realize whose child that they were messing with. Because they probably have done this many times and have gotten away with it. But they happened to beat up the wrong one on that day. And I'm glad that, there was swift action that happened with the 2, but all 4 of them should be out. Now, what are they doing? Are they prosecuting are they going to go to jail? What's happening? Or are they just fired?
So right now they're just fired. And I want to say the city attorney has something to do with that, along with Chief Jones. Because when we watched the body cam footage on last Tuesday, the city attorney was there with us, and she said, my job is to get rid of bad employees. So, which led me and Devin's mom to believe that she was part of getting rid of these police officers.
Okay.
Now, our attorney has been working hand in hand with the DA, and so she's now doing her investigation in this process, which we are believed that she's going to prosecute these police officers.
This is criminal, though. Like, what do you need? I mean, it's been 3 months now, and they've had plenty of time to investigate. They see that he brutally beat this boy. They brutally beat this boy. This is not a man. This is a 17-year-old boy. And, me and my son this is a good kid. He's a basketball player. He goes to what school? He goes to a Christian school. I don't want to say what school he goes to, but he's a good kid, right? I mean, he's came from a great family, great stock, and no prosecution, no nothing. And I mean, regardless, again, whether if he was a bad kid, even if he was going 100 miles an hour, even whatever it was, there was no use for what they did. There was no excuse. There was no justification for what they did at all. But it's interesting that it's taken them this long to, first of all, when did they fire these 2 police officers?
We got the news last Tuesday, right when they released the body cam footage. It took 3 months for them to get fired. So
they messed around. They probably tried to edit the doggone camera, but they couldn't edit it out. They just couldn't. They probably couldn't lose it. There was nothing that they could do. They had to go ahead and release it. There was nothing they can do. And then they fired them 3 months later. So they're trying to figure out how they can probably, CYA, cover their behinds on this. Yep. And it's interesting because we have, the mayor, the 2 mayors. So we have Michael Tubbs, who was a former mayor, and he's a great leader, in my opinion. He said he was proud of the leadership of Chief Jones in firing those officers. He appreciates them referring him to the DA and hopes that she presses charges. The work of police reform and transformation is ongoing, but starts with leadership and accountability, which I agree with. Our new mayor, what did he tell you? He's deeply saddened and concerned. This is the mayor that nobody's seen since he's been in office. He's deeply saddened and concerned. But what do you feel about the leadership and them, you know, the time that they've taken and where they are? Like this should not be a long process, right? This shouldn't. Right. You would think this is pretty cut and dry.
Right, because like I said, if any parent did that to their kid, I would say within a week they'll be locked up, or even if not sooner.
Right.
For them to take this long, it doesn't make any sense to me. Like, what's taking so long? There's so many unanswered questions that we have, and it's like it's a waiting game.
Right.
It's a waiting game, and we've sat quiet for 3 whole months. My family has sat quiet for 3 whole months, and we said enough is enough.
You waited for justice to prevail, and it did not.
Correct.
Or maybe it partially, but they still haven't been criminally investigated. They still haven't been charged with anything. And so justice really hasn't been served. I'm thankful, though, because before they weren't even firing police officers.
Right.
Giving them, you know, putting them on desk duty or giving them raises. And so I'm thankful. Here's a statement from his mother. The images and the sounds of hearing my son screaming and yelling and crying, I'm not resisting. And the images of them kicking and stomping and kneeing his neck and head, said the mother, 17-year-old Devin Carter. How do I learn to live with that for the rest of my life? It was horrific. So now, how is Devin? How is he doing? How is he feeling? Is he afraid of the police?
Let me say this about my son. Out of all of my kids, it happened to the right kid.
Mm.
He has a big heart. Devin, he will give you the shirt off his back.
Mm.
He's again, words can't express, you know, how I feel about this kid. Like I said, he's learning to deal with this. He, you know, I want to give a shout out to Stavante Clark. You know, he came down this past Saturday and came and support us, and we went up to Sacramento for Easter to support him in one of his events.
Now, tell us who Stavante Clark is for those who don't know.
His brother,
Stefan.
His brother was killed in his grandmother's backyard. His brother had a cell phone in his hand. Police thought it was a gun, and they let off 20 plus rounds in his grandmother's backyard, killing him.
Mm-hmm.
And so Stavante had helped Devin yesterday. Devin didn't want to speak, but after speaking to Devin, Stavante opened up Devin's eyes, said, "Hey, my brother is dead.
Mm-hmm.
I have to speak for him.
Mm.
You have this huge opportunity to let your voice be heard.
Wow.
To let people hear you because you're still here."
Mm.
And so when me and Devin's mother heard him speak yesterday, it was so powerful.
Devin?
Yes, when Devin spoke yesterday, it was so powerful. You know, he kind of understands, you know, for all the youth that's listening. Devin said this: I didn't understand why my parents were always telling me not to do things, or why they tell me not to wear my hood when I'm outside in the neighborhood, while I'm driving, not to wear my hood, not to lean back in the vehicle. He said, after this experience, I understand why my parents tell me, you know, so many things, like, because they want the best of, they want my best interest.
Wow.
Like you said, my parents were looking out for me, and this has opened up my eyes to understand that I need to be more aware of what's going on around me.
Wow. 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 So Stavante Clark, that's Stefan. If you guys remember the story, Stefan Clark, I guess they thought he did a carjacking or broke into a car or something like that. And he was going into his grandmother's backyard, and they shot him multiple times, and there's still no justice for him to this day. So, you know, again, that's another example of them being able to get away with it. I think post George Floyd, we're seeing a little bit more accountability, because imagine had this happened, because this happened to a young kid in Stockton some years back who was killed by the police. imagine pre George Floyd, he may not have gotten even the justice that he's gotten so far, you know. So I'm thankful for the little bit of progress that we have. However, we have so much further to go. There was a couple of people that said, you know, had the tables been turned and the police officer was a different color, if he was white and they were black, what would the outcome be? How would it be different? So, you know, we just have to, you know, hope and pray, and we have to do more than march. There has to be some accountability. And so for all of you guys who are just tuning in, and there's thousands and thousands of folks that are on today, we have Mr. Carter, no relation to me. His son, Devin Carter, was brutally beaten back in New Year's Eve by the Stockton Police Department. And I mean, if you see the footprints on his face and on his back and on his arm, these are shoe prints on this baby's face. Black eyes that were given to him because they said that he was speeding, and they lied. And this is my first time hearing the story about them lying and saying that he committed a double homicide, that he killed two people by vehicular manslaughter, or, you know, with his vehicle. So wasn't there a narrative that they were trying to spin about your son being a bad kid at some point?
Yeah. They you know, they also asked, you know, where's the gun you threw out the window?
The gun.
Yeah, where's the gun you threw out the window? And my son said, I didn't have a gun. Well, why were you evading arrest? Why were you driving so fast? And my son said, I was scared. I was scared. Who wouldn't be?
As he should be.
Right.
So I want to bring on Brother Nuri Muhammad. This brother is one of our local activists, and you know, has tons of experience in dealing with law enforcement, and he's out in the community. He's out on the front lines. I want to kind of get your take on, you know, what's been your experience, Brother Nuri, with dealing with law enforcement in the city of Stockton.
Thank you, Ms. Carter, Constance, for letting me get on tonight.
Absolutely.
To the Carter family, Mr. Carter, and your wife and your son and all the rest of your family members. I, like everyone else, am just really upset over what happened to your son. It's just a damn shame we have to teach our children all of these things just to survive in America. As a father like you are, I just feel for you, bro, and I'm with you in my prayers, and any help and assistance that you need, just please give me a call. As far as Stockton Police, Constance, you know, whatever reforms that are attempting to be made, you can't really hold that up against years and years of injustice. As you already know, the very nature of policing in America, you know, you can't change something in its genesis, you know, its DNA. It is what it is in its very beginning. You're not going to change what it is from its genetic makeup from its beginning. And policing has always been about slave patrols, protecting people that own land and property, and Black people being part of that property, even until today. And they just show really the nature of what we're up against here in America, that we have to protect our young men, especially from all sectors of danger, including law enforcement. And I understand, Mr. Carter, the young brother Devin, him being afraid, just seeing the police, because it's dangerous for us. And that's been my experience here in the city of Stockton. It can be very, very dangerous, very, very frightening for young men. And I just feel for them. I really do. I feel for him and the whole family.
Well, Stockton is a microcosm of you know, the greater United States. I mean, it's just a replica of what's going on generally, and you know, it has a history not only in the political arena of Stockton, but in the police department of having a gang, sort of a gang culture. Have you had any experiences with dealing with them on that level? Have you seen that type of behavior within the city?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we have years and years of just gang-like mentality. We're thankful to Almighty God that Mr. Devin Carter was able to survive. There have been other Black men his age that did not make it. And you just have to be thankful every day to the Carter family that God blessed him to survive that, because there was a man some years back, his mom was an activist today, Dion Smith, who was just about his age, maybe a year younger about his age, and it did well for him. And you're dealing with a mother that has to grieve the rest of her days with the loss of her son over a minor. And it's just terrible. So yeah, this gang-like mentality, they say they want to stop gangs in the city of Stockton. I work with young men that are in street organizations that live in neighborhoods. The real gang has always been the police department. And young people know that. Our people know that. And I think when they look at young black men, in particular, young black people in general, they're looking at people that like the freest generation that we've had. They're looking at a generation of young people that are unafraid, and it raises red flags among them, and it causes them to react like similar to what they did to Mr. Devin Carter, and that's just my real belief.
Yeah, John Burris said they were on him like a pack of wolves.
Okay.
Like he said, when they attacked him like a pack of wolves, they were telling him to take off his seat. I mean, he's in the seatbelt. You know, he wasn't resisting. He was driving. He pulled over. He's in the seatbelt. He's probably like panicking. He's scared. He's nervous. He's 17. He's a baby.
That's right. And the amount of lies that they're telling to cover themselves.
Lies.
Just
got into a fight.
Right. That's the horrible thing. That something
murder somebody.
Nobody would have known because they would have covered with their lies.
That's what they tried to do.
That's what they tried to do. You know, Chief Jones, I believe he's sincere in trying to make his reforms, but he's one person. They have a whole police force that are resistant to anything new coming in, sensitivity training. He has to force them to go to those trainings. They don't want to do it. And that's why the police union backs them. And that's why the police union backed a new mayoral candidate, because they didn't want to go to those sensitivity trainings. They didn't want to. They want to be just like they are, a bunch of marauding, no good, racist, overly aggressive gangsters.
No accountability. You know, I was in leadership Stockton several years ago, and of course, you know, a lot of the police officers and the sheriffs and all that, they go through the leadership Stockton program, and it was so interesting just meeting some of the police officers that were so horrible and so negative, and the way that they looked at people as not being humans and that they were unreformable. They were saying, well, I mean, these people are going to do the same thing anyway. You know, my wife, the one guy said, my wife, you know, she's one of those advocates that believe that people could change. I don't believe these people could change. So he's out here policing with this mentality that, you know, these are all just criminals anyway. There's nothing you can do to change them. And there's so many people that are like, so many police officers, people in badges that have that same mentality. They're not there to protect and serve. They're there to do exactly what they did to poor Devin. And that's the unfortunate thing. A lot of people have been asking Mr. Carter about his girlfriend as a witness. What did she say? What did she witness? Where was she?
So she ended up coming to my house because after they went for Devin ended up passing up my house because he said, let's meet at Dutch Bros. But after he saw that the police were still trying to chase him, you know, he ended up doing a complete circle to come back to my house. At that point, she realized Devin didn't come back or show up to my house. So she called him. He didn't answer his phone. So she looked on my iPhone to find out where Devin was and was able to, the same thing. She had to go around the way I went just to get to where Devin was, but was not able to. She didn't witness anything at that time that happened to Devin. She saw when they were putting him in a car or in an ambulance, but was not able to see any of the beating or anything like that.
So what happened to the person that they hit?
We have no idea. They didn't give us any information on that or anything. But
they just told you guys that he hit and he killed somebody.
Yes, two people.
They didn't put that in the police report. They just told you guys this.
Yeah, we haven't seen the police report, but that was something that they had told us. I believe they told his mother when she was on the phone with him, because his girlfriend ended up calling Devin's mom. She hopped on the phone. She was like, can I talk to one of the police officers? So she handed the phone over, and he was like, yeah, he's going to be going to jail for a double homicide. And that's when we were like, we need to get down there real quick.
Wow. So what do you think? I know you said you have a lot of, people that are supporting you, a lot of organizations, Faith in the Valley. What are they doing? What are they saying that the call to action is at this point? What should we be doing? Because what can we do?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
I know that you said that you had a lot of organizations that were supporting you, like Faith in the Valley. Can you hear me okay?
My for some reason
Your
my
phone is,
volume went down. I can barely hear.
I think your phone is ringing. Is that what it is?
One second. Can you say something now?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Barely.
hear me
I'm
now?
still not. Um.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Can you hear me now?
the volume is low.
Can you hear me, Brother Nuri?
Yes, I can.
Okay, okay. So I'll ask him this question, and hopefully you can start to hear me again. What do you think that we should be doing? You know, what's the call to action for us? Because I know you're out there on the front lines, and you are working with these people every day. What should we be doing?
First and foremost, we have to organize. That's always our. We just can't make this like a one-time thing, or we're momentary people. You know, we have to organize for the long haul, and sure that we stay organized and work against the powers that be. I mean, there are a lot of groups working individually, but I think it's going to be a call for us all to come together. There are a lot of people working, but as one of my co-partners or collaborators that I work with, Tashante McCoy, always says that we work in silos.
Right.
We never did unify as a collective body and organize as a collective body. And that's what it's going to take. You have a lot of good people. Faith in the Valley is a great organization, and they've helped advance peace. And they've been a supporter of myself on a personal basis for a long time. Pastor Trina, Elder Tony, Pastor Curtis Smith. They have a lot of good people working. You have a lot of groups like Faith in the Valley that are doing good work. We just have to be able to come together and apply pressure in all of the factors where we all have our strengths in, and
Yeah.
and stay organized and stay united. That's the main thing.
So what I was saying, Mr. George, was that, you know, I know you're working with a lot of organizations, and I was asking Brother Nuri, what's the call to action? What are they saying? What's the next steps for you? What are we doing?
All right. So the people is, you know, when we gather together in numbers, we're heard. You know, we are still waiting to see what they're going to do with the next officers. You know, see if they're going to get prosecuted and other ones are going to get fired. You know, and I want to talk to the community right now. We need your support. You know, we need you guys to stand behind us. That way we can demand changes to start happening in the city of Stockton, and hopefully it carries on in the other cities. You know, so it's the people voices that tends to make change, you know, that helps the changes happen.
Yeah. And, you know, the thing about it is, you know, we have a great platform that, you know, this reaches, you know, thousands and thousands of people and, you know, all over the world. We need you guys to share this on your pages. We need you guys to share this, share the link. If you're on YouTube, share the link, let people know what is happening, what has happened, because we need to have justice. And we know that that's not just happening here, it's happening all over the United States. It hasn't stopped. Just because we don't always hear about it on the news, it doesn't mean that it's not happening, but we need you to get the word out. One of my favorite African proverbs says that if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, you have to go together. And so we need to, just like you said, Brother Nuri, us working in silos, we have to stop working in silos and we have to start working together. And there's power in numbers, just like you said, Mr. Carter, there's power in numbers. So we have to come together, but we can't, when this dies down, we can't just forget about it and, you know, let it go by the wayside. We have to always be proactive. One of the things about our people, and I love us to death, I love being Black, but we're more of a reactive people than we are proactive. And we have to just continue to be, you know, not just be so up in arms when the next new headline comes out, but always be on the front lines, always be vigilant, always be asking or demanding reform, you know, always be demanding for justice, which we only do when the next new headline hits. This is a 17-year-old baby, y'all. This is a 17-year-old baby that was brutalized, you guys, brutalized. This is a boot print on this baby's face. This is a boot print, okay? This baby was crying and pleading with the police, saying that I'm not resisting. And they did everything they could to antagonize him, to make him fight back so they could have a reason to further. They had no reason to beat this boy the way they did, and they were looking for a reason to beat him some more. They were looking for a reason. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how much money you got. I don't care if my sons have their pants all the way up to their neck. At the end of the day, they are Black boys, and I have taught them as such. You can't do what everybody else does, son. You're gonna have to, you're gonna have to straighten up a little bit more. You're gonna have to, and they're still gonna come after you. It doesn't matter that you get straight A's in school. None of that stuff matters. What matters is you have to be able to come home at night. I don't need you out there fighting the power. We'll fight the power later. Make it home, and then we can fight the power together. But I just, I don't know what the answer is. And I know that, Brother Nuri and now you, Mr. Carter, you guys are out there. You're seeing what's going on. More people need to know, what can people do to, to make a difference?
I mean, one thing we have to examine is being able to police ourselves, to call the police less and less, so they don't number of engagements that they have with the Black and brown community. That would be helpful. We have to begin taking up as many issues as we can among ourselves, and then when things happen, such as what happened to our young brother, that we have to be vigilant and work collectively together and make sure that justice in its fullness is done. We don't want just some of the 2 officers fired. They all need to be released from the force. There needs to be drug testing that goes on in the police force, because it looked like they were on something.
Yeah.
There should be random drug tests if they're going to drug test NBA and football players, why not police? They have the ability to kill people. They should be drug tested. They should have all of those factors involved with being a police officer. There should be more education involved. There's no way that you go to school to be a barber or a beautician more years than you would for a police officer. There's nothing wrong with
a gun.
But this man is carrying a gun.
Mm-hmm.
So, where did those trainings? I think, Mr. Carter, you said they didn't allow you to become a police officer, probably because maybe your background test, your personality test was not the kind that they could use in order to be like overly aggressive. Maybe you have a sense of justice and fairness that just not fit for the police officer. I don't know if they still do the personality test, but I know they used to. And you had to be an aggressive type of person just to be a police officer. So,
how do we police ourselves, though, Brother Nuri? Because, when you need, what does that look like, policing ourselves, not calling the police?
Well, there are a lot of factors that happen in the Black and brown community that don't need police. Every incident does not need for you to call the police. I mean, the Nation of Islam has been very successful in securing our neighborhoods in which we live in. Security in a neighborhood has very, very little to do with policing. Homicides go up when there's a lot of police.
Mm-hmm.
The data is there. Crime goes up when there's a lot of police. It doesn't go down. Police come afterwards. So if the community takes up the initiative to begin patrolling themselves, looking after themselves, those numbers automatically drop, and you have to call them less and less. So it can be done. There are models all over the United States. There is a call for Black and brown men to become trained to police their own and to take care of their own. And I think we can do it with a little bit of training, a little bit of effort, a little bit of concentration to make things safer. And we have to try to do this with our children, our young people. Their lives are at stake if we don't do it. So what do you think, Mr. Carter, about what are our next steps? What should we be doing?
We should be rallying together. We should come together as a community, support others, because this, like we said before, this wasn't the first time this has happened. There are other people that weren't able to live to share their story. And we're not only just fighting for Devin, but we're fighting for all the other people that aren't here to tell their story. And and we're here to make sure that this doesn't continue to happen.
Yeah.
So I'll be posting things on my Facebook. Devin's mom will be doing the same. When we have these rallies, again, we need the community to back us and to support us. That way we can come together in numbers.
Yeah.
Because just a few people, we probably make a change, but it'll probably take a lot longer. But if the community rallies together, they have nothing else to do but to hear what we have to say.
That's
Right. I think that, as unfortunate as this incident is, God chose you for a reason. And, it's a curse, but it's also a gift that you can help save so many more people and, use the right way. Just like you said, the young brother's mother became an activist post his death, which is unfortunate that we have to go through things in order to activate certain things inside of us. But if you could look at it as a blessing, even though it hurts, but you guys are the right ones to be able to bring awareness. You are the right ones to be able to bring people together, to bring people to see so that they can see. We know what's going on, but we just need some more soldiers, as you all are, to be on the front lines, to share the story and to tell and to make sure that changes can be made. So I appreciate what you're doing, and I appreciate you not, you stayed silent for 3 months because you wanted to allow justice to prevail, and justice did not prevail. And so you said, F that. Okay, now we're going to have to go ahead and do our thing. Now it's time for us to activate. And so I could appreciate that. Like, there's no excuses. You didn't go out there. You didn't come out the week after telling everybody what happened to your son. You just allowed the system to take its course, and they didn't do what they were supposed to do. So
Right.
I applaud you for standing up and doing what it is that you're doing and bringing awareness. And I appreciate you guys being on tonight. So many people are made aware. I mean, there are tens of thousands of people on here right now that are watching live. And so many people know about your story that didn't know before. And so they're going to bring awareness to this and, whatever they can do. How can they get in contact with both of you so that they can know, if there's anything that they can donate? I know somebody on the chats said, what's your GoFundMe? Do you have a GoFundMe?
No, we don't. We don't at the moment. We're strong in our Christian faith. We're putting our faith and our trust in God, knowing that the right thing is going to be done. Like you said, I could have went and acted a fool, but I didn't. We're trying to let the nature take its course, because if I go and act a fool, then I wouldn't be doing justice to our son and to every other person. Yep. But yeah, you can reach me on my Facebook. It's George Carter. That's GeorgeCarter. Just hit me up. And one more, I would just like to, address some of the negative comments that have been made towards our son, towards our towards my family.
Please.
Don't judge a book by its cover, and don't always listen to what the cops are saying, because as you can see in the video, they're lies. If you just sat down and get to know me, my son, his mom, any of our kids, you'll see that none of this was deserving of our son. We didn't ask for this. We did not ask for this. But for those of you that are saying, meet me up somewhere, your son deserved it, this and that, no human being deserves that. And, they said the parents didn't teach him a lesson. No, we taught our son valuable lessons. We ingrained in him respect the police, respect the department. Like I said, my dad used to be a police officer. My mom was a correctional officer. My brother is a medical retired police officer. So I come from a family of law enforcement. No one can tell me that they never broke a law. They never put anyone in danger. There's only one person that walked this earth that was perfect, and that's Jesus. So for those of you that are out there judging, I'd ask that you stop, because none of us are perfect.
And they have the crazy thing is, you have the 16-year-old shooter that shot somebody a few months ago. He was unharmed. You have what is the other one who killed all those people who they bought him a Whopper from Burger King or whatever. Yeah. You have the other guy who went and killed all those Asians, and they said he was just having a bad day. And they get the benefit of the doubt. And for some reason, you could be innocent, yes, and you could wind up like your son or worse. Yep. Brother Nuri, do you have any final comments?
I was just gonna say, as Mr. Carter eloquently said, the only one who was perfect is Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
Let you know, it gives you insight into Jesus. You know, as a black man, you could even walk perfectly and still be arrested, tried before a jury that are not your peers because he's peerless, and be executed and crucified. It happens every day. His story, the story of Jesus the Christ, is the story of Black America here in the United States of America. And that's just the truth. That story reigns true. Those crosses that they hung, the cross that they hung Jesus on, are the same crosses that they burned in our front yard all throughout the South, and not just the South. Other places too. If you're on the West Coast or the East Coast, those crosses are there too. I mean, the Ku Klux Klan headquarters in Grand Wizard are just up the street. And there was a report that stated that there are many police officers that cities that had police activity where the Ku Klux Klan had joined the police force and had become part of the forces. So this is what you see going on in America right now. So it's not surprising. It's something that we're definitely going to have to start working hard and stay unified to fight against. So appreciate you, man, for having this conversation.
Absolutely.
I appreciate the Carter family for their strength, for their vigilance, and just standing strong, because a lot of people wouldn't have stayed after their son was all right and it looked like you might get paid some money or a check. They wouldn't say anything anymore. But it doesn't look like they picked the wrong family. It looks like
the wrong family, but the right family, you know, because a lot of us couldn't have been as held still as you did. Right. And a lot of us, you know, I probably would. You said I couldn't act a fool. I probably would have acted a fool. So thank you for, you know, holding yourself together and, being used the way that you are. When I think about, you know, what's going on with the George Floyd trial, and the police officers or Chief Jones said that they did something to your son's neck. What did they do?
Just stomped on his neck with a boot print that's on his neck.
That he could have been George Floyd.
Yeah.
And, you know, it would have been a totally different, a conversation that we would have been having. But thank God that he lived to tell the story. And now we just have to make some changes. So I appreciate you guys being on. We definitely need to continue to fight. Start being proactive and stop being reactive. Black people, we gotta stay on the forefront. We gotta keep our finger to the pulse, and we have to make sure that we're demanding. We're not asking, we're not begging, but we're demanding for justice when justice is due. So thank you guys again for being on. I appreciate you guys, you brothers, and thank you for just continuing to stay strong and being great representatives of our community. All right.